The chief of these people, who received the mission from the leaders of the Cuban American National Foundation, is the notorious Luis Posada Carriles. After my release in Guatemala, I met with Posada at a restaurant named Tre Fratelli on the road to Salvador in Majada Concepcion. He told me there that they had paid Panamanian President Moscoso, that they had given her a house, and I think he said a yacht or helicopter and $1 million. Good morning, Ambassador. It's the President to inform you that the 4 Cubans were pardoned last night and left the country. 3 left for Miami and the other, Posada Carriles, with a known destination. Goodbye and a hug to you. They left Panama for Miami. Posada stayed in Guatemala. The money was brought in the same private plane that picked them up in Panama. The U.S. aggressive policies against Cuba materialized again through the armed wing, the terrorists. Again in April 2001, the path of terror made it to Cuba. This time it was the infiltration of 3 armed men through Cayo Jutia to the north of Villa Clara province. The operation was arranged and financed by anti-Cuban ringleader Santiago Alvarez, whose plans included blowing up the Tropicana Cabaret. Let me ask you a question. A few days back, when you told me about Tropicana, do you want me to do anything there? If you want to do it much better, it's okay with me. You can get in there through a window, and with a couple of cans, you can blow the entire place. In September 2002, terrorist Rodolfo Flometa Caballero announced the establishment of the Latin American Military Alliance by merging his Comandos 4 organization and the Venezuelan Junta Patriótica, headed by Venezuelan Captain Luis Garcia Morales, living in Miami, to try to derail the Venezuelan process led by Hugo Chávez. Their interest in Venezuela, I mean, the Cuban American National Foundation's, Posada's, and the Americans' interest was oil. The foundation felt that without Venezuela, Cuba will lose its big brother. In May 2009, President Hugo Chávez Frías denounced the preparations for an attempt on his life in El Salvador if he attended the inauguration of President Mauricio Funes. We were about to leave for El Salvador and were alerted from there, by our intelligence services and the intelligence services of Nicaragua, which is a neighbor there, the Sandinistas, with their experience, and some friends from the newly elected government, that there were plans for my assassination. Later it was confirmed. Posada Carriles from Miami, his allies in Central America, and here. The idea was with 2 Barrett rifles to try killing President Chávez. There were also the attacks on the oil tankers, sailing from Venezuela to Havana, Cuba, to try sinking them with explosive charges. I also mentioned that we could act against an opposing candidate and blame President Chávez. In August 2009, the same individual, Frometa, stayed in Honduras for almost a week to support the coup d'etat against constitutional President Manuel Zelaya. The Honduran media reported the event. After the successful coup d'etat in Honduras, the Cuban Americans were very upbeat, very happy. It was Micheletti first and then Porfirio Lobo who won the elections about 6 months later. They were very excited, thrilled, and they wanted the same for Guatemala, El Salvador, and Bolivia. They already had 3 right-wing governments in Central America: Panama, Costa Rica, and Honduras. I think Honduras was an experiment that ended successfully for them. And with this success, they wanted to go on trying to change the leftist governments in Central America. They thought of Guatemala because even the Guatemalan papers, the press there, said that conditions were ripe for a coup d'etat there. He is the president of Honduras. Some say he is de facto president. No. Under the Constitution of the Republic, I'm sitting here with the president of this beautiful country, and I feel very honored. Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen from Florida, committed to the extreme right, played a key role in the release of terrorist Orlando Bosch. She supports the funding and work of Radio and TV Marti, and had a privileged relationship with the Bush administrations. She blackmails institutions and personalities who favor a change in the U.S. Cuba policy. Encouraged by Ileana Ros, Lincoln Díaz-Balart and Miami organizations brought her to the rescue, staged provocations in Cuba to damage the talks with the United States after the migratory accords of 1994 and 95. The air operations had started in 1992. For the first time, pictures of the aircraft used are published in the Miami Herald. Sponsored by the Miami Mafia, they provoked the incident. They violated Cuban airspace 25 times in 20 months, and that included Havana cities. They dropped different types of propaganda leading to the events of February 24, 1996, and the shoot-down of the aircraft. This provocation strained the Cuban-American relations. It encouraged the passage of the Helms-Burton Act, whose content prevents future settlements between the two countries. The Act codifies the measures related to the U.S. economic, commercial, and financial blockade. In 2008, she promoted the pardon of terrorist Eduardo Arocena, the mastermind of the murder of Cuban diplomat Felix Garcia Rodriguez in New York. She worked actively raising funds to pay for Posada Carriles' defense attorneys and requested Venezuela's inclusion on the list of terrorist nations. She traveled to Honduras with Lincoln and Mario Díaz-Balart to support Micheletti and the coup. Latin America has a long history of violent actions organized and financed from the north. Today's interference reminds us of Operation Condor in the 1970s. Just like then, the objectives are hidden under various disguises. The same as many years back, imperialism is not just about Washington, the White House, and the Pentagon. No, imperialism is a set of multinational corporations, financial institutions, large banks, media conglomerates, the industrial military complex. I mean, it's not only the United States.